There are moments in golf that feel bigger than trophies, bigger than leaderboards, bigger than one Sunday afternoon. And what Rory McIlroy just did felt like one of those moments. Because this wasn't just another win. This wasn't just another headline. This was the kind of performance that makes even longtime golf fans stop, stare, and ask one question. Are we watching the late prime of a legend, or the start of something even greater? For years, Rory carried one of the strangest stories in sports. Too talented to doubt, too accomplished to dismiss, but somehow always surrounded by one haunting question. What was still missing? Then he answered it. And just when people thought the story had reached its perfect ending, he turned around and did something that changed the conversation all over again. That's what makes this so gripping. Because now, it's no longer about whether Rory can still do it. It's about how far this run can really go. And if you truly love golf, if this game means something to you, and if you enjoy stories like this that remind us why we care so much, then subscribe and join this golf family. Because moments like this are exactly why we watch. What makes Rory so fascinating is that his story has never been simple. He's never been just the golden talent. He's never been just the guy with the beautiful swing. Rory has spent years being all things at once. Brilliant, frustrating, fearless, vulnerable, unstoppable, and somehow still questioned. That's why this latest chapter hits different. A lot of players win when everything feels easy, when confidence is flowing, when the putts are dropping, when the swing looks automatic. But Rory's biggest victories have always meant more because they come with history attached, pressure attached, memory attached. Every big moment for him carries the weight of everything that came before it. And that's what makes golf so brutal. The ball is sitting still, but the mind never is. Rory knows that better than almost anyone. He's been the young phenom. He's been the major machine. He's been the guy everybody expected to dominate for a decade. And then he became something even more complicated. The superstar everyone still believed in, but kept waiting on. Waiting for the next defining moment. Waiting for the next major. Waiting for proof that the fire was still there. And then came the breakthrough that changed everything. But here's the part nobody talks about. Sometimes the hardest thing in sports isn't climbing the mountain. It's figuring out what comes after you finally reach the top. That's where Rory's story became so interesting. Once he completed the dream that had followed him for years, a lot of people probably assumed the emotional pressure would disappear, that the burden was gone, that now he could just play free and collect whatever came next. But sports rarely work like that. Sometimes when you finally get what you've chased forever, there's a strange silence after it. A question you didn't expect. Now what? That's what makes what he did next feel so powerful. Instead of fading into celebration mode, instead of letting the moment become his ending, Rory showed up again with purpose. Not satisfied, not nostalgic, not acting like a man who had already written his final masterpiece. He looked like someone still writing. And this is where everything changed. Because when a player wins after years of pressure, that can be framed as release, relief, emotion, maybe even destiny. But when that same player comes back and does it again, now we're talking about something else entirely. Now we're talking about greatness with staying power. Now we're talking about a champion who isn't just surviving the spotlight. He's reshaping it. That's why this run matters so much for golf fans. It's not only about Rory adding another title. It's about him changing the emotional tone around his whole career. For years, the conversation was always built around what he hadn't done lately, what he still needed, what was missing from the resume. Suddenly, that conversation feels outdated. Now the energy is different. Now people are asking how high he can climb. Now people are looking at the all-time lists a little more seriously. And for those of us who love this game, that's exciting, because golf is better when the biggest stars are doing things that feel historic. Wait till you hear what happened next in the way people started viewing him. Rory didn't just win. He forced everyone to reconsider his place in the game. When a player stretches greatness across eras, that matters. When he wins majors years apart, that matters. When he carries scars, criticism, expectation, and still finds a way back to the very top, that matters even more. Because this isn't the story of a player who had one magical month. This is the story of a player who refused to let his prime be defined by other people's timelines. That's what I think golf fans connect with most. Rory's story feels human. He has never come across like a machine. Even when he plays with unbelievable freedom, you can still feel the emotion in it. You can sense the pressure. You can see the relief, the joy, the the disbelief, the hunger. And that makes the triumphs hit harder. We're not watching a cold, robotic winner. We're watching somebody who has had to carry hope in public. That's different. And if you've watched golf long enough, you know how rare that is. Some players are admired. Some are feared. Some are respected. But only a few become emotionally tied to the fans watching them. Rory is one of those few. When he's in the hunt, people feel it. When he stumbles, people feel that too. And when he rises again, it feels personal to millions of fans who stayed on the ride with him. That's why this recent surge doesn't feel like just another stat line. It feels like validation. But don't mistake validation for comfort, because there's still tension in this story. And that tension is exactly what makes the next chapter so compelling. Because now the question isn't whether Rory can win the biggest events. He's already answered that in dramatic fashion. The new question is whether this version of Rory, older, wiser, calmer, but still dangerous, might actually be more complete than the explosive young star we first fell in love with. That's a scary thought for the rest of the field. The younger Rory could overwhelm courses. He could hit shots that made people shake their heads. He could turn impossible holes into highlights. But this Rory feels different. There's more patience, more perspective, more understanding of the moment. He doesn't look like a man trying to outrun history anymore. He looks like a man who has learned how to use it. And this is where everything gets really interesting for the rest of the season. Because confidence in golf is unlike confidence in any other sport. In basketball, you can impose yourself. In football, you can rely on systems. In golf, confidence shows up in tiny moments. Over a 5-footer, over a nervy tee shot, over a decision to attack instead of bail out. When a player like Rory gets that feeling back, truly back, the entire tournament changes before the first round is even over. You can see it in the walk. You can hear it in the crowd. You can feel it in the way every contender knows he's there. And suddenly, Rory McIlroy is no longer the guy chasing the old version of himself. He's the problem again. But here's the part that makes this story even deeper. Nothing about golf guarantees a perfect ending. That's why fans stay humble, even when they're excited. We've seen this game humble the greatest players who ever lived. We've seen momentum disappear. We've seen form vanish. We've seen careers turn on one bad week, one cold putter, one bad bounce, one fragile stretch of confidence. So no, this isn't about crowning Rory king of everything forever. It's about appreciating what is happening right now. It's about recognizing that we may be witnessing one of those rare second acts in sports that actually lives up to the dream. Not the cheap comeback story. Not the exaggerated redemption arc. The real thing. The hard thing. The kind built over years, not days. And that's why golf fans should enjoy every second of this. Because when a player with Rory's history finds fresh belief, it reminds us why golf is such a beautiful game. It tells us that talent matters, yes, but timing matters too. Persistence matters. Emotional resilience matters. The ability to lose, learn, absorb, and return matters. Rory's story right now is not just about power fades and major records and Sunday roars. It's about endurance. It's about refusing to let disappointment become identity. It's about proving that your story can still grow, even after people think they've already written the final chapter for you. And just when that sounds inspiring enough, there's one more layer to it. He's not done yet. That may be the most dangerous part of all. Because once a player gets free from the weight of unfinished business, once he rediscovers joy and purpose at the same time, once he starts winning with both talent and perspective, then every big event starts to feel possible again. That's what makes Rory so must-watch now. Not just the trophies, not just the swing, not just the name, the possibility, the feeling that something meaningful could happen every time he tees it up. And for golf, that is gold. This is why stories like this matter. Rory McIlroy doing it again is bigger than one more victory. It's a reminder that greatness is not always a straight line. Sometimes it disappears. Sometimes it gets doubted. Sometimes it comes back stronger, deeper, and more meaningful than before. And maybe that's why fans connect with Rory the way they do. Because his journey feels like golf itself, beautiful, cruel, unpredictable, and always ready to surprise you when you least expect it. So now I want to ask you, how far do you think Rory can still go from here? Is this the final great run of his career, or is he about to add an even bigger chapter to his legacy? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more golf stories with heart, tension, and real love for this game, stay with the channel. Because if Rory has taught us anything, it's that in golf, the story is never over when people think it is.